Hi, welcome to Squeeze and the Shrimpf. I'm Squeeze.
I'm the Shrimpf.
And we're here to talk about motorcycles and whatnots. Today's topic,
Top 5 beginner motorcycles. And Squeeze is going to fight me on my answers on every one of these. So it'll be fun.
Maybe.
It'll be fun.
So the fun thing about this is we've picked out our top 5 beginner motorcycles. And we've kind of done this from the preface of if we're beginning motorcyclists and didn't own motorcyclists right now, what motorcycles would we be looking at to buy? And also maybe a little bit like what motorcycles would we be looking at to recommend for a friend. We've each selected 5. We're going to work from our 5th choice all the way up to our 1st choice. And we don't know what motorcycles each of us have picked out. So we're going to kind of do it one by one. We're going to talk about why we picked each motorcycle. And it should be kind of fun and informative for you guys. And there were no other rules, I don't think.
Not really.
No, there weren't any other rules.
So there weren't any other rules. Just do those. And I'll start us off. My 5th bike is the Honda CRF 250. It's a dual sport, and mainly it's because there are a ton of people, especially down here in the Southwest, who start off on a dirt bike, and if you just need a dirt bike that has lights and a license plate, like...
It's also cheap.
Yeah.
It's also cheap.
Almost all of mine are cheap.
Yeah.
And the main reason is, short of, okay, I'm going to buy one bike for the next 5 years, you're going to get a bike and then you're going to move on to your next new, better bike.
Yeah.
Once you kind of learn what you like out of motorcycling.
The only caveat I'm going to throw in about that bike, and I might have one on my list with the same one, is that you wouldn't be able to commute to work with that bike.
You can commute.
You wouldn't be able to commute.
I would not be comfortable. It doesn't.
You probably shouldn't take a 250 enduro bike on the freeway.
Yeah.
Probably don't do that.
But there's my bikes are all different things for different people because
definitely around town, or like if you can get to maybe a trail without having to take the highway, an enduro bike is a pretty good and versatile first bike.
Yeah.
The only other thing too is that enduro bikes, maybe not necessarily that one, but a lot of them tend to be kind of high. Yeah. So shorter riders might not feel so comfortable on them.
The other thing is I don't care if it's the Honda. Any of the dual sports, enduro, 250, 300, even down to 150 if you're just putting around town, who cares?
It's a good, cheap bike. And if you live in the LA area, you can also take that bike and reenact the scene from Terminator 2.
Totally.
And you could be John Connor, right? All you have to do is find a big buddy who hits a weight pile a little bit with a fat bob to ride with.
We are not reenacting that just because I know you're going to put me in front and you get to go all Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I do not agree with this comment, sir.
Well, one of us is more John Connor size than the other.
Definitely, but no.
Yeah.
Let's reenact some other movie.
All right.
Okay, so what's your 5?
My fifth, my number 5 choice is the Triumph Street Twin.
Okay.
It's a little bit more. It was hard for me not to list a Triumph Cafe bike, but the street.
I'm not going to show you what I have until later.
the Street Twin is a good all-around motorcycle. It's like 800 cc's or something, 900 cc's.
I thought the Speed Twin was 900. The Street Twin's like 6 or something.
Yeah.
Off the top of my knowledge.
So 900 cc's. You're good for the highway.
Yeah. You're good for 300.
Yeah, you're good for the highway. You're good for commuting. It's a great around town bike. It's under $10,000. It says Triumph on the side,
which is cool.
Right? Which is cool. Yeah.
I like UK bikes.
Yeah. Who doesn't like UK bikes?
Yeah, no,
I'm waiting for somebody to.
I see nothing wrong with your pick there. The only thing that it definitely is on the sportier side of stuff.
It is. Yeah.
Which is pros and cons. I've definitely had things that are sporty on my list as well.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, number 4 for me is actually the another Triumph. It's the Bonnie T120.
Okay.
So the Bonneville
yeah.
T120.
Like just under $11,000.
Yeah, it's a lot more standard, classic looking. It's not quite cafe racered out where you're really hunched over.
You could cafe it out.
There's
later.
so many ways you could go with that bike,
Yeah,
and
the
that's one of the
Triumph
beautiful.
Bonnevilles have a lot of aftermarket mods that you can do, which is really cool. There's only one problem I have with that bike, and Rusty knows what it is. I really don't
Fit on it.
Well, I'm a little bit large framed for that bike. I'm real long and lanky. You guys might not be able to notice this with us sitting here, but there's a considerable size difference. But my biggest thing is an aesthetic one. The Triumph Bonneville now has a pinch welded seam.
Yeah, it does.
And you see it. If they just would tuck that away or bury it somehow, I get it. A pinch welded seam is cheaper, but it's just not as sexy.
It is a huge, like.
If you look at a Bonneville tank from the '60s, it's a work of art. It's beautiful.
I agree. It's better looking.
Yeah.
That's not something I'm gonna,
But if for
put my flag on and die on a hill for.
Yeah, for under 11 grand. Yeah, if you can deal with a pinch welded seam, get a little bit of your Goth Sisters black nail polish out and just paint the lip black so it matches, fades into shadows, you won't notice it's there.
Okay, so that's my 4. What's your 4?
My fourth one, also another Triumph. Tiger 800.
Okay.
Tiger 800. So the thing I like about the Tiger 800, it fits a lot of sizes. It's fairly low for an ADV bike, being an 800. You can put bags on it. You could put hard bags that lock. So if you commute and you need to take stuff with you, if you really want to use this for a bike that you're going to use every day for everything that you do, you could go grocery shopping with it. You could take it on trails. You could take it on dirt. And there's only one problem with it. ADV bikes are the dad jeans of motorcycles.
Oh, bleh.
It's true. They're just not.
It's a utility vehicle. It is
a utility vehicle.
It's not a sport vehicle.
I get it. But I'm just saying, if you're buying a motorcycle because girls think sexy,
it is.
Stay off the Tiger 800 for that one.
It is a little less sexy.
There's like one guy who's going to ride that bike.
Speaking of that, would also go with my 3, the Honda Rebel.
Okay,
the Honda Rebel is kind of like saying, I got a Civic.
I'm really surprised you have a Cruiser on your list, but.
Well, I don't dislike cruisers. It's just they're not my aesthetic.
Yeah, no, I get it.
But the Honda Rebel, it is a stupid good bike.
It's cheap?
It is cheap. It is enough oomph to not get you in trouble, but enough oomph to you can have a ton of fun. And it's great for getting going. Plus, you can pick them up for snot cheap in the used market.
The used market is great. There's a fair amount of aftermarket kit, so you can kind of really make it your own. I would say, I don't know what the horsepower is on that or what the power to weight ratio is. I mean, you're not going to be breaking any land speed records with that.
All of my bikes are also lighter than yours. If I'm just looking for a great first bike, not a great I am buying one bike.
Yeah, the Honda Rebel's really good because it's not intimidating to you.
Yeah, and okay, so you got a used Rebel, you ride it for 6 months, you get a new bike. That's kind of when I see a lot of people buying that, what they're looking at doing with their bike is they'll go on to this is my first bike. I don't care if I use a kickstand. I'll just tip it over and, go on with my life and then pick it up.
You're not going to, if you drop a Honda Rebel.
Especially a used one that wasn't yours brand new.
There's not going to be many tears.
You're not looking at it like,
Get yourself a can of Krylon, good as new, and probably looks better after that.
It gives character.
I think so.
So that's my third one, because you're not going to have, there's going to be very few people who are like, you picked a bad bike, but there's also not going to be as many people who are like, you picked a bike I want to ride as well.
Yeah, I think I think the Honda Rebel is kind of one of those bikes when you tell people, like when you're like walking around with your helmet, and people are like, "What kind of bike do you have?" You're like, "I have a Honda Rebel." They're gonna go, "Oh, that's a good first bike. Like that's a you made a sensible shoes choice."
Yeah.
But there's not gonna be too many people who are gonna ooh and ah you after you say that.
Yeah.
But it is good. It's a good first choice and it's cheap. So my third one is this is probably the cheapest one on my list, right? Suzuki TU 250X.
Okay.
It's probably, with the exception of the Royal Enfield Bullet, I think it's the longest. They've been making this bike since the 70s. Nothing has changed. If you want to like do a handlebar mustache and wear some hipster shit and go hopefully not on your motorcycle to drink craft beer.
Yeah.
But if you want to do the whole hipster thing, you can't.
Go park your motorcycle at a craft brewery and then walk home.
And the cool thing about it is that it's going to run well.
Yeah,
right?
they fixed everything with it. That being said, you are still running on something that was designed in the 70s, so caveats to all of the things that there are better technologies now.
Yeah, 100%. But it is cheap. You can have it for brand new for under four grand. Brand new for under $4,000. Motorcycle for under $4,000. That also looks kind of cool. You know, I mean, if you're into that aesthetic, it looks pretty cool. It looks like it's from the 70s because it hasn't changed since the 70s. And you're getting a bike that doesn't have the problems of a bike if you bought a used bike from the 70s to get that same aesthetic and cool factor.
You better have a lot of wrenching under your belt before you buy a used bike from the 70s.
Yeah.
That being said, that's another one I might not decide I want to do anything more than like one exit on the freeway.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't ride it on the freeway.
They also haven't got any horsepower since the 70s.
Yeah. No, it's definitely not got any oomph. I personally would just ride that around town. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't ride that.
So that's what, your 3?
That's my third one. So give me number 2 for you.
Number 2, SV650.
Okay. That's my favorite one on your list so far.
I'm not surprised. It's really dang close to my bike, but they don't make my bike anymore, and I don't want everyone to buy Bandits, so I have more Bandits I can buy. But I really like that mid-range in the size. It's able to go really sporty. If you want to put clamp-ons, you can make it go really touring and have it do a bunch of different things.
I will say this, if that bike is your first bike, you do have to respect the power you have.
You do.
You can't just be like, it's not a leader bike, because you can get into a shitload of trouble with a 650.
Yeah, 650 will still break, you look down and go, why am I doing 3 digits on my Speedo just because you forgot that you were in 3rd gear.
And it's fun to run through the gears.
It really is. So yeah, the 650 is high up on my list. You're gonna laugh at my last one.
You're gonna laugh at my last.
Okay.
All right, my second choice, if the first was not an option, is a Harley Davidson Sportster 883 or a 1200.
Honorable mention on mine was a what was it? Flat iron. It was a Harley.
Yeah.
It was 8.
Flat iron's what you use for your hair, though.
Well, I don't. But yeah, Harley was on my short list.
Yeah, the thing I like about the Sportster is like you can get our friend of ours, her first bike is an 883, right? And I think that she's able to get it for under 8, under 7, somewhere around there. And it was brand new. It was just a 19 on a 2020 lot. So they're looking to move bikes. So you could get a great deal on a Sportster that way for the same price of some of the Sportsters that were like legit used, that had some significant miles.
There's always some of that where you can kind of play the field depending on what's happening with I haven't even said anything as far as pricing.
Yeah.
Because honestly, short of it being it's $20K or you can get it stupid cheap.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of people with their first bike. They're not sure how much they're going to ride it. Mm-hmm. They might be non-committal, right? Mm-hmm. But you should definitely get a bike that you're going to. I mean, most bikes you're going to have fun on, but you should definitely get a bike that you feel good on, so that you want to ride it, and you should get something that you think is a little sexy, so that you want to ride it a lot and get good at it. But I think the Sportster is really good. Shitload of aftermarket parts.
Yeah.
You could cafe it out. You can make it into a cruiser. You could put ape hangers on it. You could put forward controls. You could put mid controls. You could put rear controls.
If
You
there
could
is
redo the
something to be
exhaust.
said for Harley, it does have literally
The parts
catalogs.
list the parts list is endless for Sportsters.
And that's before you go to, aftermarket.
There's a lot of people that'll say it's a girl's bike. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it's a great bike. It's fun to throw around. It's fun to ride. I rode our friend's 883, and while I probably looked like I was maybe in a circus riding a little clown bike,
I still want to get you on a pocket rocket just for that.
we'll get a photo. Yeah. We'll get a photo on some Groms or something.
Okay, so my top bike, and what I have written on my piece of paper is not what I'm going to actually say. My top bike written on my piece of paper is the bike you actually have access to. Because just like you learned how to ride, it was on your uncle's stupid big bagger.
Yeah.
That's the bike you should have started riding because you could start riding.
Yeah, so I learned how to ride when I was like 16, 17 years old on my uncle's 1997 Heritage Softail, and he had bags on it and a full windscreen, and I mean I think like my second time riding it, my uncle was on the back of it. He was not a small guy, so none of those things are like what you should recommend to a beginner.
No,
because it's a big heavy bike, but I've always been pretty strong as shit, so it didn't feel like it was going to tip over or anything. So
and it got you riding.
yeah, and it got me riding. And I think some of that too, like you have to, if you're a guy who's done a lot of weightlifting or you were an athlete or something like that, and you're getting your first bike, you don't have to listen to that bike's going to be too heavy for you.
Yeah.
You're not going to drop it in a parking lot because you're not.
Heck, you can
small.
blow through all of these things if you actually spend time learning how to ride a bike and doing the class, which is a whole nother video we will be doing shortly because take the class.
That kind of runs into my choice. So my choice is is I have an or.
Okay.
Right? Is a Fat Bob 114 or a CBR 1000 RR.
Okay.
Now, the reason why that's on there
Okay.
is that the Fat Bob 114 is the bike that I currently ride.
I was gonna say,
And how
showing
could
your
I
colors
not? How could I
much?
not put the bike I currently ride on the list, right?
Considering it was the first one you actually bought with your own money.
The first one I bought with my own money. But I think that, it might be a little bit cost prohibitive for people. I went a little bit crazy on modifying it and everything. But the Fat Bob 114's a giant engine,
Yeah.
right? But it's not a light bike. It's probably one of the lighter bikes in the Harley bigger bike lineup. It's plenty fast. It's got a shitload of torque.
It's not that
you
much
feel
heavier
it
than
peeling
mine.
away. Yeah, it's pretty fast. People might not recommend that for real beginner riders because it does have a lot of power. Same with the CBR 1000 RR.
Yeah, that
right?
is
Which is on my short buy list to add to the fleet.
But that is going into superbike territory.
It is in
less
superbike
than,
territory.
A beginner bike.
Yeah.
But if
The reason why I wanted to put those on there is if you're dead set on getting one of those bikes, and there's going to be those people who are dead set at getting a big, powerful bike, I'm not going to say no. Like, if you are dead set at doing that, I'm not going to say no because you're going to do it anyway. My asterisk to that is that you take your time with it, you learn proper throttle control, you learn how to have really good clutch control, and you learn how to ride that bike. You take the course, learn how to ride with some friends. It's easy. Hop on Reddit and be like, I just bought this motorcycle. This is where I live. Does anyone want to help me start learning how to ride? Or find a forum or something like that. You'll find motorcycle people want to ride motorcycles with other people who have motorcycles. You'll notice when you get a motorcycle, they're just going to come out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
I mean, we've accrued a veritable gang of people who want to ride with us just because they come to our work.
And we have our helmet out.
Yeah, and there's bikes out front, and they're like, whose bikes are those?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh shit, I have a bike too. Let's go riding,
And you're like, but I have to work.
Yeah, so if you want to...
Riding motorcycles.
Yeah. If you want to get a big badass bike, by all means, go for it. Just know what you're getting into. Know that you have to respect all that power. It's almost like a weapon.
Yeah.
So you have to learn how to use it and respect it properly. Shrimpf, what are you doing in here?
The camera went dark.
It's just the camera just died.
Oh.
Everything is fine. See, you're still mic'd up. Everybody can still hear you.
Okay.
What are you doing with your helmet on?
It makes me feel more safe.
Oh, come on. We got a podcast to finish.
Let's do this.
See? Everything's normal.
We're all old-timey.
Oh, we are all old-timey, aren't we?
We should fix that.
There.
I'm good.
Normal. Anyway, like we were saying, if you are going to learn from a buddy of yours, don't pick the guy who goes riding in a tank top and flip-flops and he doesn't wear gloves.
And
that
he's
guy's
lane splitting at 90. Yeah, that guy's an idiot.
Yeah.
And he does a really good job of not making it past 30.
Yeah. So when you hear the stories of people who, when people are like, oh, motorcycles are dangerous, they're dangerous for that guy.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter what bike you're on, whether you're on the easiest thing in the world or something really hard. Take your time, learn how to ride, and that's way more important than what bike you ride.
Yeah.
You can learn to ride on the hardest thing, but ride safe. You're just going to have more time learning.
And that's one of the great things about learning from the motorcycle course is you're learning from people who study how to ride safely, and they practice that.
That's a whole nother
And then
video.
they
We are
impart that.
definitely doing that one.
we're definitely
Because
doing that.
yeah, take the course.
Yeah. So any other?
No, I think I'm good. I mean, I've got a bunch of other bikes that'd be great bikes, but honestly, these 10 lists, they tend to be more of like, these ones are good ideas, but there's a lot of good bikes and there's a lot of bad bikes, but it really depends on who you are, what your riding situation is.
Honorable mention, scooters.
Yes. So I don't really even care what scooter it is, because the thing that makes a scooter a difference for me is it's an automatic, which arguably puts most electric bikes right now in scooter town, because you just don't have a clutch, which makes it one less thing that you're having to think about when you're learning. You can just focus on, okay, where is that power going? How am I doing that? Granted, if you're taking that as your beginner bike and you want to get into something more, the next time you go up a step, now you're having to learn that as well. Pros, cons.
And yeah, the clutch and manual gearbox on a motorcycle can be extra intimidating for people if they've never driven a stick shift automobile before.
Or
So,
even more so if they don't
scooter-
understand how a stick shift on an automobile works. If they're just
Yeah.
like, okay, when I hit this point, I shift. Having a little bit of knowledge of how the mechanics underneath work will definitely help you when you're riding, because there tends to be a lot more of, okay, you shifted too early, or you shifted, you downshifted too early, and now your rear tire's spinning. Why is that happening? A lot more of a mistake on a bike because you lose, balance.
Yeah. But I mean, just, learning how a manual gearbox works and learning how to ride a bike at the same time can be a little daunting. So if you want to bridge that gap with a scooter or even like a DCT, Honda automatic transmission motorcycle, or an electric bike,
whatever, it is
Those
a
can be-
beautiful option you have nowadays that like people in the 50s didn't.
yeah. Or you can, pretend that you're Audrey Hepburn in Italy.
Yeah.
And
Or
ride
just
around like
go buy a Fawn and drive around Italy on a Vespa.
That's true.
You could just
You could
become Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah.
Like,
Anyway, those are our top 5 motorcycles
each.
each.
So you got 10?
You got 10. You got extra for beginner riders. And I think that concludes the video.
I think
If
that
you
pretty much
liked
does that.
it, go ahead and hit subscribe.
Ring that bell so you know when we have
That
new
helps our
videos coming out
channel grow.
every week.
Yep. And we are also on Facebook. Right here. Bing. Squish.moto. We're on Instagram also. Squish.moto. We also have our own website. squishmoto.com, where you can go buy baubles and trinkets, stickers, and the like, and support us and help us bring better and more videos to you.
Woo!
And with that, goodbye.
Peace.
You get busy bee! Go get busy bee!